In 2022, Chilla released the Bathhouse, which I did a video on. Later on down the line, a game-breaking bug was found, and one that the developer couldn't find a fix for, so they remade the entire game. What was a creepy game initially was made even more terrifying. There were some major alterations to the story too. In this video, I'll be going through the new story, and then at the end go over the major differences in comparison to the original game. Before we begin, please note that there will be spoilers in this video for the Bathhouse, both the original and the restored version, so let's jump in. It's exactly 1 week after a bathhouse worker mysteriously disappeared whilst cleaning the sauna. Mina-san is taking a bath at her home and receives a phone call. She speaks with the person on the other end of the phone about how it's been a while since their graduation from the orphanage she went to as a child. The person offers her a job working at their rural bathhouse, and the job comes with an apartment that she can live in. Seeing as Mina feels uncomfortable living in the big city, she packs her belongings and heads out into the countryside. Outside the bathhouse, she spots a woman praying outside it in the rain. Finding her apartment 202, she speaks with the landlord, who is also the manager of the bathhouse. He asks how old she is, but she can remark that she is 24 in 3 days' time. The landlord says that she can start immediately, so after dropping off her luggage, she heads to the bathhouse. On the way, she notices a strange individual who is seemingly trying to hide their identity. She also spots wanted posters around the area too, mentioning the young man who is called Toru. Arriving at the bathhouse for a shift, Mina goes through her training. The landlord tells her how to serve customers by giving them the items they need, how to heat and cool down the baths, how to clean the baths, and tells her to kick customers out if they're not following the bathhouse rules. The landlord mentions that he has to go because apparently the place is making him feel sick. A bit odd, but anyway, Mina begins her shift. 2 men come in and she has to kick one of them out as he's acting inappropriately towards another man in the baths. She serves more customers, some of them incredibly rude, and these 2 women also comment on how she looks a lot like the previous girl who worked there, the one who went missing. A creepy guy comes in saying that he'll work out where she lives. She has to kick another young woman out because she tried to enter the baths wearing a swimsuit. Eventually the shift ends and Mina can get on with her cleaning duties. A young boy is in there who arrived with what seemed to be his mother. He tells Mina that there's a spirit in the bathhouse, but afterwards, he says that he doesn't even have a mother. She hears a voice whilst cleaning. The woman says that she's an employee of the bathhouse and asks Mina to throw her a bucket. So Mina does. Brushing this off as something just really weird and finishing her cleaning, she takes a shower, but she sees some creepy stuff. She sees a naked guy walking behind her, the creepy guy from earlier. She then sees a monkey run behind her. Following the monkey, she walks into the male side of the bathhouse to find the naked guy lying there dead, with a load of monkeys around him. Hair appears to exit his mouth and squirms away. The young man's been killed, but by who? Mina then reports it and returns to her apartment. Getting up for work the next day, Mina heads to the bathhouse again. On the way, spotting an older woman trying to get into the neighbouring room 203. After speaking to the landlord about what happened on the previous day, saying the man probably had too much to drink, the landlord says that one of his friends will be visiting the bathhouse today and that Mina is to send him right through. Mina then starts a shift. It's more of the same really, rude people who tell Mina she's not working fast enough, strange men who make inappropriate comments towards her. One woman tries dyeing her hair in the bathhouse showers, which is a massive no-no, so Mina asks her to leave. However, more creepy things start to happen. The man who made an inappropriate comment towards her just stands at the door to the boiler room. He then walks away, his facial expression and demeanour very different. He walks out without even changing. Another man walks in and tries taking pictures, but he leaves after he spots something in his photographs and gets spooked. Mina continues to see creepy stuff happening in the bathhouse, and this guy tries to sneak into the woman's side of the bathhouse. The mysterious guy from the posters shows up. He walks around the bathhouse for a bit and leaves, and this woman shows up, verbally abuses Mina, leaves her hat on, and disappears into the boiler room with her nowhere to be found. Mina then spots something terrifying. Eventually, the landlord's friend Keiichi turns up. She gives him what he needs. He's a Yakuza boss. In the bathhouse, he demands that Mina wash his back. Reluctantly doing it after he threatens her, he reveals to Mina that his company owns the bathhouse, and he offers her a job working for him whilst making sleazy comments to her. Naturally, she declines. He continues with his threats, but then, just as happened with the creepy guy earlier, Keiichi appears to have been affected by something. His nose bleeds and he too walks off in a stupefied state. At the end of her shift, Mina cleans up and hears the bell on the desk ring. Hearing an alarm for the boilers and checking it out, she looks at the cameras and sees a woman standing in front of the boilers. Thinking it's the woman who disappeared earlier on, Mina approaches her and sees something with its arms wrapped around her. The woman then gets pulled somewhere. Opening the boiler, Mina finds a piece of jewelry, a bracelet. Turning around, the landlord is standing right behind her. He tells Mina to take a shower. She does so, and looking up, she sees something standing next to her. Taking a bath, she experiences more strange occurrences. Someone throws a rubber duck on the dividing wall, and she hears the female voice, the one from the previous evening who claimed to be an employee. She does what it asks and throws the duck back. This happens over and over and over again, with the duck becoming covered in more and more hair, until... Getting up for another shift, Mina wakes up to see the landlord at her door, tells him that strange things are happening in the bathhouse. He replies that spirits appear where there aren't many people around. He advises her to go and speak with the priest at the local shrine. Doing so and telling him about the strange things going on inside the bathhouse, the priest tells her that she needs spiritual protection, that a darkness is surrounding her and has been growing ever since she arrived there in the village. He gives her an amulet and blesses her with the power of the Yaoyorozu gods. Mina starts her shift. She speaks with the repairman who came to fix the boilers. He says that the place is too creepy, says that there's nothing wrong with the boilers and that he never wants to go back there again. The shift is fairly straightforward. That is, until creepy things start happening once again. Mina spots a ghostly figure in one of the baths which disappears when close. She also serves a customer who speaks about his religion and their deity, Chilla. Taking a golden idol into the bathhouse with him sees the idol crack, and he blames it on Mina's sins. The mysterious guy is back again, and once again he just walks around the bathhouse. He speaks to Mina this time though. He introduces himself as Toru and says that he's trying to find out what happened to his sister. He says that someone in the village doesn't like him and put the poster of him up. Another woman comes in, she's familiar. She's the woman who was trying to get into apartment 203 and who was knocking on the door. She seems a bit off and she's asking for milk. More customers enter. One man tries to end himself in the bathhouse, stopping him. He enters into the same stupefied state and leaves. A ghostly looking woman enters. Her face changes momentarily. She talks about sorrow, rage and despair in the depths of the bathhouse. She's pregnant and she gives birth in the bathhouse. She's standing there holding her baby, asking, why did he do this? The shift ends and Mina cleans the bathhouse mirrors. She takes a shower again and hears things. She goes into the sauna and sees someone walking round in the bathhouse. Whilst in the sauna, however, something grabs her head and turns it to the right. That something then crawls out of the sauna and then disappears. Yumeki walks into the bathhouse and says they have milk at her supermarket, so Mina goes and picks it up. She takes it back to the bathhouse and stocks the fridge. Mina speaks to the old woman, but the old woman freaks out when she sees the bracelet on Mina's wrist, the one she got from the boiler, claiming it belonged to her daughter Yoko, and tries to get it back, attacking Mina. Then something happens to the woman. She is attacked by some presence. Furniture starts flying around the room. The landlord shows up and Mina collapses. She comes to a bit later and the landlord is relieved, as he thought she was going to die. He says it would be troublesome for her to die as she can't die now. He corrects himself but claims he saw nothing happen when he walked in. He tells her to go home and get some sleep. On the fourth day, it's Mina's birthday. She's now 24. She gets up and hears the doorbell. It's the priest. He tells her to meet him underneath the bathhouse in the basement as he's got something very important that he needs to tell her about her. Leaving the apartment, she is approached by the mysterious guy Toru. He asks if Mina has found anything out about his sister yet, to which she replies that she has not. He asks her name, to which she replies, Mina. Heading to the bathhouse, Mina sees the landlord having a shower in the bathhouse and needs to sneak around him, so she distracts him and heads into the boiler room. She finds a sheet of corrugated iron and moving it back, a door is revealed. Descending many flights of stairs, Mina is now far beneath the bathhouse and steps into what appears to be a place where someone had been held, chained up. Some scissors are hidden in the wall, and cutting open a pillow, Mina finds a note. It reads that there was a woman being held captive here. Something moved in her stomach and she talks of a child. The priest arrives as promised and he tells Mina that over 20 years ago the landlord was obsessed with a young woman from the village. His obsession led him to lock her in the basement, and unbeknownst to him, she was pregnant. However, she gave birth to twins, but died due to blood loss after giving birth. She was aged 24, the same age as Mina is now. The landlord contacted the priest took the twins, named them Toru and Irena, and left them in the care of an orphanage. The woman who died was called Yoko. He reveals that Mina's real name is Irena. She's Yoko's daughter. The priest continues to explain that Yoko turned into an Ibume and haunts the landlord for what he did to her, as well as haunting the bathhouse itself. To lift the curse, the Ibume's child must be burned to death when they reach the age of the mother, which means that Mina is the right age, which is exactly why she is there. The landlord called her and gave her a job, which is why he told her she cannot die yet. The priest arranged for Toru to be there too, and the landlord didn't want Toru interfering, so put up posters around the village. Leaving the basement, Mina spots a bubbling in one of the baths. She is pulled into the Ibume's realm and has to prevent the Ibume from manifesting. When this is done, she leaves via the front door and is thrown back into the earthly realm. She and the landlord are thrown out of the baths and Mina runs back to her apartment. A hole behind the wardrobe starts to see hair coming through it. It's the Ibume. However, the landlord shows up, incapacitates Mina, and drags her back to the bathhouse where he burns her alive, and the game then ends. Now there's an almost meta feel to the game at this point because technically the player now knows new information, such as Mina's real name, Irena. So going downstairs and being approached by the mysterious man Toru, her twin brother, Irena tells him her real name and he says that if she's in danger to go to the priest's apartment instead of her own, as the priest let him use it. Irena heads to the basement and finds out the truth from the priest about her true identity. Heading back up, she gets pulled into the Ibume's realm again, stops her manifesting and gets thrown back into the real world. This time, as instructed, instead of running back to her apartment, she goes back to apartment 102, but is knocked out by the landlord before she can get inside and is dragged back to the bathhouse. This time, Toru attacks the landlord, pouring gasoline over him, burning him alive. Toru drags his sister out of the bathhouse into safety. He says it's nice to know he has a sibling. Realizing what needs to be done, he sacrifices himself for his sister, walking into the burning bathhouse. Therefore, the curse has now been lifted, as one of Yoko's children has sacrificed themselves. The police arrive and Irena tells them all about what happened, but naturally they are very skeptical. However, there is a much better ending for the twins. Okay, so waking up at the start of day 4, Irena finds a key to apartment 203 on her futon, along with the umbilical cord from when she was born. Speaking to the priest at the door, she heads into apartment 203. This was previously Yoko's room over 20 years ago. There is hair everywhere, but she finds a strange tile on the side. Exiting the apartment and speaking with her brother, Irena spots a sweet potato vendor on the street. He seems otherworldly and ominous, but correctly answering questions in a quiz, he offers Irena a sweet potato from his cart. Amongst the sweet potatoes, Irena discovers a locker key for one of the lockers in the bathhouse. This locker contains another tile. Completing a shooting challenge in the store gives her another, and sneaking into the bathhouse and using the landlord's locker key, she obtains the key for his apartment. Going to it, she discovers another tile. Heading to the shrine and completing a puzzle, she gains access to the shrine, and inside is the umbilical cord from her brother, Toru. She goes to the basement of the bathhouse, learns about her true identity, and after getting pulled into the Ibume's realm, she walks straight out of the door of the bathhouse and approaches her mother. Giving her something that links her and her children together, she turns around and thanks Irena. The curse is lifted. Irena and the landlord are rejected from the Ibume's realm, and as the landlord tries to attack Irena, the priest intervenes for an epic showdown.
そこまでにしましょう。
After that, it's all over. Irena talks with the priest who tells her that he's sorry he didn't go to the police earlier, but he wanted the landlord to repent for what he'd done. He just wanted things to run their course. He realized that Yoko just wanted to protect her children. Erina and Toru then leave the village and drive away with the village's residents waving them off. With a good ending for the siblings, the game then ends, and that's the story for the restored edition of the Bathhouse. But there's a bit left to clear up regarding the Ubume. Alright, so we've established that Yoko lived in the village over 20 years prior. The landlord became obsessed with her, but of course she wasn't interested in him. In his apartment we can see his journal. He says that Yoko is his, and that weird guys get in between them. Well, Yoko got pregnant. Of course, the landlord didn't know she was, but in his jealousy and wanting her all to himself, he locked her in the basement. He went to check up on her after leaving her down there for a while, but she had given birth and died. He noticed a stain on the bathhouse wall that resembled a woman, and heard a woman screaming. He noticed seeing a person's shadow after closing time, and the black shadow chased him. Not knowing what was going on, he contacted a monk, who told him that he was being haunted by an Ubume, Yoko. The monk told him that he needed to wait in order to perform a ritual to get rid of the Ubume. He would then wait, being tormented for almost 24 years. He tracked down the twins, found Erina's number, called her and offered her a job in the bathhouse days before her 24th birthday. Yoko, or her Ubume, during Erina's time in the bathhouse, would show her motherly and protective instincts. Anyone who attempted to harm Erina would bear the brunt of the Ubume. The creepy guy who was walking around naked after closing, probably planning to attack Erina, ended up dead, and hair, a sign of the Ubume, exited his body and slithered away. Another creepy guy on day 2 got stupefied by the Ubume after telling Erina he would make her his woman. The customer who called Erina a neat, which basically means living off your parents' savings and not being employed, ended up getting dragged away near the boilers. The Yakuza boss, Keiji, who made lewd and threatening remarks towards Erina and ended up being attacked and stupefied by the Ubume in response. The old woman who wanted milk attacked Erina whilst trying to get the bracelet off of her that belonged to Yoko, and this led to the old woman being attacked. As a side note, this woman is actually Yoko's mother and the twins' grandmother. And it seems the woman who fell asleep in the sauna only had to pass by the pregnant woman, who was a ghostly apparition of Yoko, in order for her to become stupefied as well. Finally, and slightly unrelated, the ghostly voice that Erina heard during her shifts was the spirit of the employee that went missing a week before. It's likely that she was disposed of by the landlord too. Okay, so there were many differences in the restored version compared to the original. Firstly, Mina's circumstances at the start were different, as she was working a job in the city for a company and just needed to get away for the good of her health. In this version, she simply just needed to leave the city. Instead of getting a call from the landlord, she found a flyer in the original. The mysterious man was a red herring in the original, a regular feature in Chilla's games, put there to make you think he'd been guilty of nefarious behaviour due to the wanted posters. And of course in this version he's Erina's twin brother. Mina and Erina were sisters in the original game, with Erina going there after Mina disappeared. In the original, the monk is the antagonist, and Yoko was the victim in the original game, who is in a relationship with the monk who, if you've played it, will remember that he wanted to keep their relationship a secret. Yoko got pregnant, so the monk killed her, however she gave birth. The resulting Ubume then haunted and cursed the monk. And of course Yoko and the two sisters are no relation to one another, whereas in the restored version, Yoko, Erina and Toru are blood relations. And the lovable sweet potato guy from the original game is gone, and he's been replaced with someone who seems like he's an otherworldly being. But that is pretty much it for this game. Overall, the story, I think, was an improvement over the original. The graphics are improved, as is the gameplay, but do you prefer the story in the original or the restored version? Let me know down in the comments. If you're not subscribed, then please do subscribe. Leave a like on the video too, as it massively helps. But for now, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.